Welcome. Welcome to this book launch. My name is Eivind Jacobsen. I'm an institute director at SIFO, or Consumption Research Norway, as it's named in English. And we are at Oslo and Akershus University College of the Applied Science, one of the places where this book has originated. It's my privilege to congratulate an impressive number of contributors. I counted 49. Can the contributors please rise up? You see how many there are? Well, there's some. But there's a lot of people other places. So there are also two very proud editors here. Kate Fletcher from University of the Arts London and our own Ingunn Grimstad Klepp, both sitting here in front. The two of you have done a very impressive job initiating, compiling and editing this wonderful, important and rather unusual book. It contains 50 short articles on methods in the practical how-to style to be used in what you have chosen to name wardrobe studies by academic researchers as well as practitioners in this important field. As you say on page 3 in the book gives attention to methods that provide insight into collections of clothes and the garment-related world that take place in the extended space of the wardrobe. I guess we will hear more about this in the following presentation. This book is the outcome of a research council project coordinated by Ingunn at SIFO, Cruise, enhancing local wool value chains in Norway. This still ongoing project belongs to the Bionær program and has the primary objective to increase the value creation from Norwegian wool and redefine sustainable fashion through re-establishing the understanding of where clothes come from. The project involves researchers from a variety of academic disciplines and practitioners all along the wool and textile value chain. So there's the contributions in this book. Though it's have a slightly academic bias, the book has intentionally been made accessible to readers from most backgrounds. The book is also extremely international, or rather global, we could say, as its contributors come from 3 continents. This also illustrates the potential global reach of this book. The book and the Cruise project as well are confidently rooted in SIFO's long history of textile and textile-related testing and research. From its start in home economics in the late 1930s to today's multidisciplinary mix of social science, humanities, design and technical research, there's a red thread highlighting respect for the material and materiality as such. Academically speaking, everyday life cannot be reduced to language games, speech acts, and symbols, as some of those subscribing to the postmodern or so-called language turn in the social science and the humanities could be suspected to believe. At SIFO, thanks to the presence of cross-disciplinary competencies in our staff, for instance engineers as well as sociologists, and the fact that we have had laboratories. The last one we had to get rid of 3 years ago. But thanks to this presence, we have been more or less forced to take the material aspects of everyday life seriously. This book and the methods it portrays does that. Specifically, they depict a variety of ways of exploring into physical wardrobes. A great contribution to the more textile and fashion-oriented studies and practices found in academia, as well as in business and other places. However, I believe this book should be read even more broadly, also outside the textile and fashion sector, by, for instance, my own colleagues in sociology and anthropology. Such reading could inspire a more generic development of new ways of exploring into societies and everyday lives' materiality and what things and our material surrounding does to us and to everyone. As such, this book is a work to be inspired from, also beyond the immediate audience of wardrobe studies. So, congratulations, this is a wonderful book and an impressive achievement. And on behalf of Oslo and Akershus University College, I'm supposed to give you flowers. Could the two editors please stand up? You really deserve this. And before we go on, I'm been asked to introduce the next speaker, Tone Tobiasson, who will say more about hands-on research and how valuable it is to sustainability perspective. Tone is also part of the Cruise project team, where she is responsible for communication and dissemination. She's also the editor of nicefashion.org and have through the years been a close SIFO collaborator and ally in projects focusing on questions related to sustainability in clothes, fashion and textiles. So Tone, please come up here and give her a hand, please.
Oh, it's fantastic to see so many people here. We're really happy and very surprised that so many people wanted to come to this launch. I recognize faces from academia. I recognize people from the industry sector, from the value chain sector. Wool, I see someone there, right there. If you want to discuss Norwegian wool, we have Marion there. Some NGOs, or maybe just some concerned citizens and consumers who want to know more about this theme. Well, hopefully you will find it interesting and a little bit challenging to your perception of how your own wardrobe knowledge can contribute to more sustainable consumption. Yeah. So, you guys, airing one's dirty laundry, rummaging through underwear drawers, loitering and spying on shoppers, or sniffing sweaty fabric samples fastened to gym mats. Is there no end to what researchers allow themselves in the name of science? Evidently not. But then there are some gaping holes in our knowledge about how consumers actually treat, care, and discard, how they learn to love or not to love their wardrobes, and probably thus themselves. Are your clothes good or are they greedy? Do you own them or do they own you? The language needs to evolve beyond fashion's hijacking of words, the must-haves, the it items, or whatever ridiculous constellations fashion media comes up with and threads over our heads like outdated derby hats. But also the inherent dictatorship of language needs to be looked at. Fashion is on its dying bed, and only the fashion business itself refuses to see athleisure, comfort dressing, and everyday clothing rearing their ugly head, or perhaps utilitarian heads. We need to understand what clothes get worn out, and contribute to better health, equality, and integration. As part of this push towards a new approach that embraces a growth in value rather than volume, we find Opening Up the Wardrobe, a methods book for researching real life, true needs, not those imposed us by marketing, but those that match the reality as perceived by you and me. What is rather unique is that this academic but not non-academic book has been published by a Norwegian publisher, Novus, and is being launched in Oslo before Copenhagen and London and Vancouver and Brazil and whatever other exotic place in the world. How un-Norwegian. So please welcome the two distinguished editors of this radical book, Kate Fletcher, you're the research professor at the University of the Arts London, which has already been said. Come up. You have been exploring design for sustainability in fashion forever. You're described as a fashion and sustainability pioneer, design activist, consultant, writer, and lover of the natural world. We spent last night in the woods, right?
We did.
Her
and
books,
there were dogs.
Yeah, and there were dogs.
That's another story.
Yeah, her books are on the reading list of all who study sustainability in the textile sector. They have to read them. Some may remember you from the Craft of Use project when you also came to Norway to map those favorite and longest worn garments we all treasure. Or your talk at the textile panel meeting in 2014, where you said, we see a decline in impacts per garment. However, the scale of consumption outweighs the efficiency gains, so the net impact for the textile sector is still increasing. Or at Needlework and Technology in 2015, where your talk on fashion ecology made waves. This was also the official launch of the Cruise project. Well, in the book, Kate presents several methods, as does the other editor. Please welcome research professor Ingunn Grimstad Klepp from Consumption Research Norway, perhaps better known as SIFO, at Oslo and Akershus University College of Applied Sciences. You really have to read that because there's no way of remembering it. I don't know if you know, but there has been this wardrobe mafia, and you guys have been part of it. There's been a lot of work and research ongoing both in this group and outside. And Ingunn has pioneered method development and methods for studying the material aspects of fibers, fabrics, and apparel since she started her journey with ethnology in the 1980s. Kate and Ingunn have written the intro and the conclusive chapters in the methods book, alongside contributing, as I mentioned, to several methods. I would also like to mention briefly that the next launch will be in Copenhagen then, tomorrow, and if SAS behave themselves, Ingunn will be there. And next week in London, it's a part of the laundry pile exhibition, and SAS better behave so you get home too, where Kate will speak. But Oslo got them first, so here's the floor. Kate and Ingunn.
Thank you, Tone. And because, English is a horrible language to speak when you're not born with it, Kate will start.
I think it's pretty horrible to speak, even if it is your native tongue. Hi, everybody. It is amazing to be here, and it was true. We were in the woods foraging and just being with the incredible thing that you guys have figured out here in Norway about how to make sense of what is important in life, which I just don't think the British really do get. So it is totally apt that we're here, first of all, to talk about a book that tries also to figure out what makes sense with clothes in a new way. So we're here to mark the release of it, and I would have to say, I would have to say that it is a different sort of book. It's already been alluded to that it's a book of methods, it's a collection of things, but I would also say that it's the first of a kind, actually. So to pull together 50 different ways, different ideas, different practices of figuring out what goes on in people's real lives associated with their clothes is a completely different thing. I think there are 50 different contributors. Sorry, sir, you said 49, I think. I think there are 50. And they're incredibly diverse. We have textile engineers, we have dancers, there are anthropologists and fine artists. There's a whole collection of people who have brought to bear on this book some ideas about how you can access what goes on in people's everyday lives with their clothes. As Tone said, so much of what happens in fashion is pretty fake news, actually. So why not start looking for the real stuff. And I would say that maybe the place to begin is by looking into the everyday things that people do with their clothes. And this book is not a book that just focuses on the container, you know, the drawers and the hanging space of the wardrobe. But actually, more it's about how to unlock it, how to unlock the wardrobe, and with it the ideas about what's going on there as something that's important. For too long, the fashion industry has really been besotted by its own ideas, by the importance of it as an economic process, as this fueler of change and vital nature of people's creativity. For too long it's been thinking that that's the important thing. But actually there's something else that's amazing that's going on, which is the very fabulous and satisfying and often difficult things that happen in people's real lives. I would say that real lives, the stuff that we all do with our clothes, whether it's at the kitchen table or in our bedrooms or whatever it is, real lives are a real counter-narrative to a view of fashion that's all about an agenda of more, all about agenda of shopping, about buying now. And it describes a very narrow view of who is important and what is valuable. I would say, for those industry representatives that are here, that industry is an important component of fashion activity, but it's not all of it. And this book helps you access those other bits, tells you other stories, other ideas. But I would say that wrongly, the stuff that industry tends to think that's important, the stuff that obviously leads to a development of the bottom line, that gets all the attention, but no more. So to focus on people's activity with clothes actually is a really radical act. And it's about the politics of the here and now that is important. So what we want to do is encourage you through this book to have a go with using some of these. They're called methods, but essentially they're different ways of exploring, different ways of searching out what is actually going on in the world. And do that and you access a completely different array of clothing experiences. So you can use these methods off the peg. You can try them on for size. If they don't fit, adjust them a bit, because that's one of the powers of doing things in these ways. And I think little by little, method by method, the sorts of information, the sorts of knowledge, the sorts of things that we think are important will begin to shift. And that is really vital. So why understand what goes on in people's real lives with their clothes? Why understand wardrobes better? And there are many reasons, and I'm just going to list very quickly. So it helps us, designers, develop better garments. Because actually, if you know what suits people, what they like, how it's absolutely part of this process of innovation with development. It helps others. It increases our understanding of issues around appearance, around democracy, around satisfaction. It enhances maybe detailed knowledge about the scale, the type of global consumption, and maybe what you need to do about it. And maybe what it does is it allows space for a more diverse view of what fashion and clothing can be. But not only that, and okay, I would say this because that's what I specialize in sustainability, but it seems to me that what happens in people's real lives, in their wardrobes, profoundly shapes the potential of a garment to contribute to a different sort of sustainability future. So it's to wardrobes that we must turn if we're going to make big change. Sustainability is a political, not a technical crisis. Technology alone can't help us out of the mess that we're in. So, therefore, what we need to do is to piece together all of those things, all of these subtle things that go on, and then big change will come. So as was mentioned, this book came out of some funding that England got as part of the Cruise project, and I am tied into one of the work packages of, and so this is one of the things that we ended up doing. And it was simply a thing that we started doing a project together around localism asking questions about what things are when they're produced close to home. And that when we were doing it, we realized that there weren't the tools to do that properly. So we started to invent them. And then the more we looked around, we thought, oh, okay, other people have had to do the same. There's a real lack of sharing of this sort of thing. And so we made the book. There's loads of people that we should thank. Of course, the authors, of course, the people in this room, of course, the people who are all engaged in what's going on today. Without them, it really wouldn't have been possible. We've only authored a very few of the many contributions. They are from around the world, from 4 different continents. I think it's something like 8 different time zones. It's a big, old task. Thank you also to Kirsi here. I practiced the pronunciation and now I'm struggling.
No, it was not that bad. It was quite well.
Litalia, of the surname. Oh, and then Lizzie Harrison in the UK for doing much of the early organising of the book. And then finally, a thanks in advance to everybody, including you, who we know are going to use the book and make a change.
Yes, thank you, Kate. It's nice to listen to a person that speaks only English so nicely and also have some words behind, thoughts behind it. And I also thought I would contribute what is lacking. And then I think you really explained it very nicely, but maybe it was not clear for everybody why Norwegian wool has something to do with this. Is that unclear? Is it? Yeah, maybe. But okay, Cruise is about Norwegian wool, but we think that the work with local clothing is actually important, and that is what Kate has been describing is actually our route towards development of the methods, so we can be more standing on sort of not moving underground when we are developing new methods that is not in the book, exploring local clothing or clothing localism. Yes, so that is the link between the Cruise project. Yeah. But you have to speak English because here it's a lot of people that doesn't understand.
Okay, so everyone sit down, be calm. We have to bring someone in this building, so I'm waiting for some information about that.
And this is really you shouldn't just go somewhere else.
Sorry.
Shall we sit down?
Yeah, please do.
Oh my goodness.
Mari Bjerk. I'm sorry. Can you come? What's wrong? What's wrong? Yeah. Well, I'm sorry to say, ma'am, but you have been arrested. So if you can please stand here. Your arms. Well, why? As you have seen, you have violated one of the most important laws. You cannot wear sports socks with those fancy pants. Why? Why? Well, it looks stupid. I'm sorry. Is there a Kate Fletcher here? Kate?
I've also made the same violation, I think, in the past.
This morning, when you put your knickers on, horrible. I just have to say. So you also have to come down to the station with me.
Are we under arrest?
Yeah, you are under arrest, yeah. Yeah,
But we
you
are.
Are you the fashion police?
I would say police of proper dressing, I would say.
But we object to this horrible dressing rules.
I'm sorry, I am the law here.
But we object, don't we?
I object.
We object.
I mean, what is it to do with you, how I dress?
You can't object. I am the law.
But we object.
Do you agree? You can't wear that, and the knickers we shouldn't take them. No.
Don't take your pants off.
I won't show you.
So, okay, come along. Nobody is interrupting here, so come along. Sorry, you've been busted.
Silje and Mari, could you please come back? Silje is not a police. She is actually one of the contributors to the book. And Mari as well. And in the book, they are using methods to explore wardrobes. Silje has done a beautiful work on leisure clothing, and Mari has done her PhD about uniforms. Yeah, so she knows a lot about workwear and uniforms and the rules around them. And what they tried to present here was actually a method in the book that is made of an American man from New York. His name is Otto von Busch, and it's called Fashion Police. And what he tried to do is to arrest the arresters. You know, he points on the people that try to arrest other people with breaking the rules of fashion. And I guess that in Norway we don't very often talk about the fashion police, but we talk about a very special Norwegian kind of fashion police called bunadspolitiet. And I don't know, have you met them personally? How many has met the bunadspolitiet personally? Quite a few. How many have heard about the bunadspolitiet? Yes, everybody. Okay, so bunadspolitiet is very well known in Norway, not the fashion police. But I will say that the fashion police is much more active than the bunadspolitiet. And I will give you one example, and that we had a few weeks ago, we had a great discussion about a young woman that was supposed to talk about the election, you know, the election we had. And she was a lot of people that didn't want her to be on Norwegian television because she wore a headscarf. Ooh, that was too much for the fashion police in Norway. So the fashion police doesn't necessarily present themselves as a fashion police. They can present themselves as something completely different. And I guess that you have met them, like sisters and mothers and brothers and in the same class in the school. I think it's a lot of fashion police going on. You have children, so you might already, you know, yeah. So we wanted this fashion police thing to be demonstrated because it clearly shows how it's not only pleasant. Clothes are not only beautiful and warm, they are also something that divides people and that are a part of all these kind of processes that makes democracy and equality difficult.
Then, to chip in, just to say that also, so Otto, who's actually Swedish but lives in New York, but whatever, so what the point of it was is that it's part of a therapeutic process of actually acknowledging that other people are sort of looking at you and you're thinking, that was really unfair, and acknowledging that and beginning to voice that to take away some of the power that the fashion police have given themselves. And so part of that also means acknowledging that there's very many different sorts of forces that are influencing what we wear and how we dress. And so this is a method that he would set up a booth, he would have somebody dressed a bit like this, and then people would start filling out questionnaires as part of this process of exposing some of these hidden, difficult things to discuss that go on in and around clothes, and that are, quite frankly, extremely uncomfortable. I mean, what a scandal.
But you did not boo. You were supposed to boo. You all off.
Who's next?
Okay, yeah. In the beginning, Eivind already told that it's a lot of different expertise at SIFO. And Kirsi, she's educated, Kirsi Laitala. after the surname is not difficult. She is educated in textile engineering, but she has been working and also taking her PhD in design and consumption, and she has been very central in developing of methods that are standing both on the natural sciences and the social sciences and the cultural sciences together. So, Kirsi, you will tell something about what you have done, and afterwards everybody can try this in the room besides there.
Yeah, thank you. I will need help from 2 students if Magnus and Louise come here, and they will be my interview updates. And I will need some time to put up the things. And maybe you can help me. So we are going to demonstrate here 2 different methods that are studying textiles from different point of view. Instead of the visual of looking like it's normally in fashion when you only concentrate on the looks, we're going to concentrate in 2 different things. And the first one is about odor, how the textiles how they smell after use. And the other one is about how they feel. So both are non-visual methods that we have been used, and these are methods number 40 and 41 in the book. So I will first start with the one about the odor. The samples are in the glasses. They have been used by, there's 5 different types of wipers in there, in different materials in these glasses. And people have been wiping themselves after training, so they smell sweat, but only after one time, so it's not so very strong smell. But we're going to see if it's actually possible to smell a difference between materials already after one use. And this is important because it decides, the odor is very decisive when you want to evaluate if you're going to wash some clothing, or if you can use it again, or if you're buying second-hand clothing and if it smells too much. Or it could be also be a good connection to a previous user. If it's clothing you inherited from your grandmother and you can maybe still send a little bit of her in there, it might be a really positive connection. So that's why we think odor is also really important. So, Louisa is going to help me. Should I take this with me? Should we maybe try to sit up like this? So, if you can take the first one, number 1. And then I would like you to evaluate the smell on a grading from 1 to 5.
Yeah.
And 5 is really strong odor. It's really strong.
Well, I guess that one would be, well, I'm kind of like 4 or 5, maybe.
All the samples will be available afterwards,
Yeah.
but on the table over
Yeah.
there, so we can go around and test yourself.
Maybe I will put it in that one.
Okay, and number 2.
Let me see. Well, that's actually, I think maybe like a 1.
Well, very,
Yeah,
very little,
Cannot
almost no.
smell nothing like that.
Okay, that's
Let me see. 3?
3.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Put it on 3. And then that will be
What's that?
like between like a 3 and 4.
3 to 4. Yeah.
Yeah. And the last one. Well, 2.
2.
Yeah.
That's so strong. So these different, they were made of wool, and there was 2 synthetic samples, 1 cotton sample and 1 viscose. And if we check now I can't remember the order myself, but the strongest one was the one the one polyester one. So we got the same result here as we got in samples with over 20 different people smelling the samples and so forth. So even with 1 panel member, we got the same result actually. And and the wool was the one that she didn't notice any smell actually. Wow. So it's interesting. And the other method I would like to introduce is about the feeling of fabrics. So here, I would like Magnus to put on a mask, this beautiful mask, so that he can see. And I will give him some samples. It's 5 different samples, and they are all either made of wool, cotton, or synthetic, and I would like him only to evaluate that one. So here is sample number 4.
It feels kind of soft, but also kind of thick, but it's stretchy. I think it would be something synthetic.
Synthetic.
Polyester, maybe?
Okay, thank you. We will check it afterwards. And then we have a second sample.
This is a little bit more rough than the first one, but it's still soft. Could this be synthetic too?
Synthetic. We will see. And it's quite difficult when you can't really see the material and try to guess it. And this one is number 5.
I'm not sure. Could this be maybe more like cotton, for example? Or, yeah.
Okay, I write it down, thank you. And then it's 2 more. Let's see this one.
Oh, this is pretty rough. I think this must be wool.
Because it's rough.
Yeah, and kind of thick and a little bit itchy, maybe.
Okay. Okay, thank you. And then the one more, this one.
I think this might be cotton too, because it feels kind of, I don't know, soft and thin, but it's not really stretchy.
No, okay. And this is how we have done it, and you can see he actually guessed 3 correctly and 2 wrong, and that's quite good result actually. The difficult samples were really thin wool and things that are quite difficult to guess, because he thought it might be more synthetic or more cotton was the other guess. So yeah. I think I forgot to Ingen want to say something. I forgot.
No, it's good.
Yeah.
The thing is that these kind of methods of actually touching or smelling is actually important, and we have done things like this. For instance, to see working with wool with the notion that wool is itchy. Is it itchy when you don't know if it's wool or not, for instance? So to see or not see is important, and to touch or smell is also important, because this is a big part of our daily life. We are not only looking at clothing, we are smelling, we are listening, we are touching. So afterwards you can try it out with Kirsis has a table, and you can try yourself whether you manage to guess the material without looking. Okay, thank you.
So afterwards you can test yourself, and that's going to be very exciting. I just need to introduce some more people, and one person that I don't think was able to come here today, who's also an author, who has worked with Kirsi on the smell and feel project. She's Marie Hebrock, is a PhD candidate at Consumption Research Norway, and works within the fields of industrial design and sustainable consumption. She was an important part of the first big wool project, which was before Krus, which was valuing Norwegian wool, where all this testing of materials was done, and where one came up with some very exciting results about smell and touching and feeling. We also have one person that I'd like to rise, and that's Aura Lilja Jørgensrud. Are you here? Yeah, there she is. She's come all the way from Tingvoll to be with us today. And she has a background in design, climate adaptation, and agroecology. Her work focuses on the nexus between sustainable agriculture and fashion. She was responsible for the fieldwork in Molde and Tingvoll, auditing total fashion assets, which is part of the cruise project, and Ingunn and Kate's work package, which they described briefly, which is method number 3 in the book. And this meant counting clothing and the tools and the resources of clothing care, which has also been done in Macclesfield in the UK. But now, you may be wondering what all these clothes are doing up here. We have one last demonstration up here before you can explore yourselves. And we are really going to open up a wardrobe, an actual wardrobe, a real one, which belongs to student Christina Evelyn Jahr, sitting here, yes, who has been followed all day by NRK News, and with fellow student Julia Butflod Myrvold, and the last author to be introduced, Ingrid Haugsrud. They will demonstrate a wardrobe interview and how that is done. And this is method 19 and looks at notions of what is valuable in the eyes of the owner. And you can come up then, and Ingrid Haugsrud took her master's degree in fashion and society from HIOA, which is the shortened version, from the Department of Art, Design and Drama, and is now a designer. So, could you please come up and give us a little demonstration? Yeah, you are.
Yes. Yeah. Christine, you have been working today, moving your wardrobe here.
Part of it.
Part of it. I haven't seen it, but I know you have a big wardrobe.
I do.
Yes.
It's
Can you
large.
just describe it for the others?
It's chaotic right now. It is. It's pretty large. I will say that the clothes you're seeing today is 1/4 of it. So
Yes.
it's a collection of what we thought would be nice to show, I guess, to people who haven't been in my closet, which is all of you, I guess.
Yeah. Working with methods, we very often would wish to have it all. You know, we want to count it, to look at it, to know everything about everything. And we know that a big wardrobe is very, very difficult to enter because it's just so many pieces. And the thing is that each piece has a big, big, big history. In this case, I think it is big, not because you is very rich or very buying type, but it's big because you are a carer for clothing. Yes. And I think it is important to remind you that not a big wardrobe, not necessarily is a wardrobe that is contributing more on like a big footstep on the earth. It could be otherwise. But anyway, we will demonstrate a method that we call wardrobe-based interviews, and I ask the questions. So, do you have like anything in the wardrobe that has been worn or owned by a person before you?
Yes. My mother's shirt, which is the turquoise one in the front. She had this before I was born, and I was baptized in it. So it has a very emotional, I have emotional strings to it. And my mom is also, me and my mom are both refugees. So she wore this before we came to Norway. So it has a lot of value for me. And my father died when I was 2. So the shirt, the sweater, was part of a special, what should I say, part of my past, which now means a lot to me because I don't have my father here with me anymore. So that sweater means a lot to me, and it was really, really sad for me when my mom told me that she was going to throw it away. She had this big bag with clothes that she was like, I'm going to throw this away, so if you like anything, you can just take it with you, or else I will give it away or throw it away. So when I looked through it, I recognized that sweater from the picture that I've brought, and I almost cried because why would she throw that away? That was just too weird for me. So I kept it.
Yeah.
And
Do you still wear it?
I don't wear it anymore because it's tired, it's old, it's almost 30 years old, and it has some holes in it. So I haven't really found a way to mend them.
So the reason why you're not wearing it is not that you don't like it. No, it is to keep it.
It's to keep it.
It is to keep to not destroy it.
To not destroy it and to have it as long as I live. It's a reminder of a past that I don't remember really.
Okay. Could you show us if you have a piece of clothing that is of value for you, like you really like it?
I have. Let's see here. This is just me on a regular day. This sweater is also my mom's, and she had it. It's the first sweater she bought when she came to Norway in '92, and it's a knitted sweater. So I love to put this on me on a cold day. And it's kind of nice. I like the colors, and it's kind of.
So that is of value, or
it is of value, and I still wear it.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can you wear it for everything?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah.
I wear it with my skirts and a pullover for my dresses and pants, jeans when I wear them, which is almost never.
Is this kind of clothing that you can always wear?
I think so.
Yeah.
Maybe not when it's really hot outside, but any other day would be good. Yeah.
And then you have a select collection of very beautiful pieces of dresses.
Yeah.
And you also dressed in a very nice dress.
Thank you.
Yeah. So you are interested in dresses.
Yes.
Yes.
I'm a dress lover.
You
dress
are
collector.
dressed like me, always a nice dress around. And is it like some treasures around your dresses? Which if you should pick one to show us, which one would you pick?
I'm just going to put this back where it belongs. This is the wrong way. This is one of my favorite dresses for sure, because it's from Nina Ricci, and I found it on Fredriks, which is a second-hand store here. And I bought it for 129 Norwegian kroners, and I started crying in the store, because who gives away dresses like this? And it's just amazing. It's the way it's made and the way it's tailored and everything. It's so pretty, and I get chills. To give away just dresses with that much of value, and it's just weird for me.
And it was a treasure for you to find it.
Yes,
like a hunter finding
treasure hunting.
Yes, and not also have to pay a lot for it.
No.
Yes,
which is kind of sad, because I mean, handcraft should be praised and we should pay what it's worth. But I often feel like we pay more for the name and brand these days rather than the actual work. So this was just such a treasure, and treasure hunting is so much fun for me.
Yes.
So yeah.
Yes, I can imagine you look great in it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I think I do.
Yes,
Well,
yes. And it's also nice to see that people have, relationships with clothing that is warm, that they are happy finding, happy wearing, and happy looking after their clothing. And as a researcher, I will say that I would love to know all the stories in Christina's wardrobe, really. And in all other wardrobes, because it's like, opening up the wardrobes. It's like Christina just presented for you. It's about telling a story. It's very personal. It's about where you're coming from, what you have experienced, people you met, important days and places and people in your life. And all these stories comes up when we talk about, when we are using these kind of methods. And these stories is very, very different from the stories that we are mainly told through the fashion press and through the through fashion industry about newness. So, thank you very much, Christina.
Thank you.
So, back to me again, and sink down a little. I forgot to say that Aura Lilja is also going to do a demonstration out there. She will have the far table with the Transect project. But before I let you poke around, I would like to introduce a guest who has come a long way, all the way from Hamburg, Dr. Kirsten Brodde. Could you please come up? You're a global project leader of Detox My Fashion, instrumental in several groundbreaking reports about fast fashion and consumer attitudes. You studied medicine, German literature, and linguistics, and received a PhD in journalism at Hamburg University, and now you work for Greenpeace, which is a big organization which comprises 29 independent national regional offices, also in Norway, operating over 40 countries across Europe, the Americas, Asia, and the Pacific, as well as coordinating body, Greenpeace International. So, why do you feel it's so important to do this research, and what don't we know enough about?
So, first of all, thanks for having me here. I'm very glad that it is possible today to support what Ingunn and Kate are doing with this book. Because
program here on the stage, as we have said, it's your turn to explore now, to smell and to touch with the blindfold, and to look at some of the research that was done. And that will be in this room for the most part. Of course, I'm sure they can look at your wardrobe too, a little bit, and ask you if they have questions. And of course, the editors, Ingunn and Kate, will be available for answering questions. And otherwise, I would just tell you to mingle, enjoy, and stay here. And there will also be a table manned by Mari and Silje with the book, if anybody wants to buy it. And they do Vips or whatever, modern stuff. But do test your fiber acumen, please, everyone. Thank you.
Much fun putting it together and being a part of it. Yeah, maybe we should. Hvordan dette her blir på NRK. Ja, hva det på?
Vi skal jo egentlig ikke se på det.
Vil du ha filmkast? Nei.
Politisk.